I love it. So, speaking of white glove AI and just foundation and the founding documents, we were actually chatting about that, but we will now. Wow, I'd love to hear all about the founding documents.
Hello, Jason. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you as well.
I'm Albert Ramos.
Albert,
Nice to meet you.
I'm
Yeah.
Saurabh Nathani.
Excellent. Here, we'll get you a little closer to the mic. I'll
Sure.
scoot back here.
Okay.
And yeah, so we've had a ton of guests on, and I'm sure the audience heard it. Nick was whispering in my ear that you
Yeah.
were responsible. You're responsible for a lot of things,
Well,
but
yeah,
one of them being the founding documents of White Glove AI.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm Saurabh Nathani. I work with White Summers. I'm off counsel with that. We are legal counsels, and we have startups put together the founding documents, like you mentioned,
See,
and we also help startups through the life cycle, which is your VC financings or your mergers and acquisitions, stock options plans, whatever is on the legal side. That's what we do at White Summers. In addition, on the investor side, also, of course, we help set up funds, we help set up angel investor their own LLCs and advise them on that side as well. So essentially, from a startup perspective, White Glove is we met on the internet, and he was looking for a startup lawyer, and that's how I connected with him. And yeah, that's how we put together
that's
this
amazing.
podcast.
All right, I want to get right to it. Right, documents.
Yeah,
Documents. Not only for startups, but for organizations, and just having a solid legal framework of compliance
For
and
sure.
risk mitigation, all of that. What I'm finding, and I'd love to hear your point, how is AI, how is AI transforming how your business does business, how you come up with these documents and drafts and review, and I mean, what does that look like now?
Yeah, actually, so in the legal tech space itself, legal tech has taken off in a big way in various pockets within the country as well as in the larger ecosystem. There are various companies out there that have been funded that are creating legal tech tools for AI to deliver legal services to the clients more efficiently, thereby driving the cost down, driving the time spent in executing the work lower, and that is ultimately going to benefit the client at the end of the day. How it's been able to help us, we're currently testing, and I'm actually, as we speak, demoing several legal tech products out there. And so the way it helps us is it helps us automate the execution and delivery of the documents to the clients themselves. It also actually automates the process of client providing us the data inputs through those documents as well. So in a way that the time taken for us to get from a start to a finish is a lot shorter, and that drives also, of course, lower the costs of the client to hire legal services.
That's great.
And that, I think, is one of the benefits of AI being used in the legal space. But in addition, it's driving out the mundane tasks of,
Right.
let's say, form filling
Yeah,
away from the lawyer's desk.
that's something that we've heard, and there's a lot been out there. Paralegals are going to be disrupted with AI because a lot of that mundane work. What do you think the opportunity is that where paralegals will then be able to fill different and more impactful roles?
So this is something that I heard by somebody, I can't remember who, but somebody wise in the internet, when the talk was about
Was it Nick?
no, the talk was about, oh, the AI is this, they're going to take us our jobs. And the comparison, the analogy was in the 1950s and 40s, when the docks, the ships used to come into the shipping docks at the ports. Uh, Back in the day, when cranes were introduced, the manual labor got reduced because now the cranes could do the heavy lifting. They could lift containers, and
Do it
now you
faster.
see, yeah, they're faster, and now you see larger and larger containers and ships and all of those expanding. The thought back then was, oh, the laborers and the workforce, they'll be out of jobs. Sure, they went out of jobs, but they upskilled and they got replaced, or they transitioned into some other higher paying jobs or higher level jobs, or some other way that they were able to provide meaningful value. Essentially, AI is going to help us achieve that, and so we'll probably get to a point where really what will matter is our individual cerebral capacity, our individual cerebral abilities
Yeah.
on how to push that boundary.
Let's walk.
Yeah.
I'd love to go deeper there because we're hearing a theme today, right? It's not just this augmentation. It's not even just about replacement, but there's also this in between, like upskill, learn how to use it, lean in, right? So that you are an orchestrator of the agent's human or whatever, right? Now, you're taking it, you're saying it a little bit differently now around our cerebral capacity, and I'm very interested now. My brain's firing up again. Can you walk us through what you mean by that?
um, Today we look at, let's say, the technology that we're seeing. You know, every literally every other week we're seeing some other new AI agent or Gen AI agent, let's say Gemini or whichever other, let's say, ChatGPT 4 or whatnot.
Yeah, Claude will be releasing theirs next week.
Yes, exactly. So we are seeing all of that real time on, the DeepSeek came out a few months, literally last month, and
Yeah,
quite disruptive,
it
from
was.
from an open AI perspective. But those things are going to happen, and that is actually what I'm basically looking at as a reflection of the human geniuses. That these human geniuses is because we need to think about something, how to be more creative and maybe drive costs down, and that's what probably was the motivation for DeepSeek
Right.
folks to drive it down to an open source situation, so that developers don't have to, or software companies don't have to spend so much money to license those Gen AI engines from the larger companies. So I think, when I say cerebral is going to really matter, is that's what I'm basically at. That whoever has the more, the larger vision, that'll help solve more problems
Yeah.
or more issues.
So there it is
Is
again, right? We
Yeah.
chatted about the orchestrator, the visionary, you being able to think creatively, right, and strategic. And so there's a lot of people out there that are wondering, well, how do I lean in, and how do I even some that are like, I don't want to get replaced, and I can foresee the current task or current role being replaced. What do I do next? And there's some really good feedback today, including yours on, well, here's how you reposition yourself. You upskill, you tap into your what I've called God-given gift, right? Your creativity to be able to strategize better and orchestrate everything going on.
And using the AI as an assistant, and it's a partner with
Correct.
you, but
Yeah.
it's not your enemy.
Right.
It's a complement to your skills and your knowledge and your experience.
So what's different? And I want to kind of go back, right? We were talking about the paralegal, and I'd love to hit on that a little bit more, and how AI is being used for some of the things that you do, and then what also came up to mind, and not to throw out more brands out there because I really think we're talking about a lot of brands, but how do you differentiate yourself? What's your competitive edge and differentiator versus like a legal Zoom? Because there's a lot of people I talk to, especially
Oh,
starting
yes,
at bold
yes.
entrepreneurship, legal Zoom or Rocket Lawyer.
Yeah,
Walk me
yes.
through your differentiator.
I think one of the biggest key differentiators is that we actually provide legal services, and most of these platforms will have a disclaimer saying that they don't provide legal services.
I see.
And so these are DIY platforms. There's no doubt that the quality is getting better and better, the quality of the legal documents. Um, However, they do have that issue where they're not providing the legal services because they're just a platform and it's a DIY. You do it yourself, and you just get a bunch of documents. It's a different matter if a platform comes up and says that, okay, we also do provide legal backing and legal services, and you have a lawyer to talk to. That will be the game changer for sure. That will certainly drive down costs.
Curious. Oh, go ahead,
So,
Jason.
so one of the things, how are you combating hallucinations? And there was a big
That was my
early
question. You were
adoption
reading my
of
mind.
AI where a lawyer went and came up and found a case that was just made up. So, how are you balancing that? The AIs are not always right. So, we want to make sure people know, go in with cautious optimism when they're
Right.
using this, but there may not always be perfect. So, how do you balance
Yeah.
that?
The reason I said is that it's not just a lawyer; it's several lawyers who've
Okay.
used ChatGPT and, in real life
They didn't learn
litigation
after the
cases.
first one got.
Yes, yes, and so some have burned their fingers certainly, and obviously the learning from that is that we shouldn't be relying entirely on that when it's, obviously as grave as a legal case in a court of law. You've obviously got to do your due diligence. You have to do your findings properly through the correct traditional legal sources. Yes, ChatGPT certain or some of these Gen AI platforms certainly get you information real quick, real fast. But of course, just like a doctor's profession, it impacts somebody's life. So obviously, you've got to be obviously vigilant and careful about that. And that's probably why we heard in the news that some lawyers probably lost their law
They did.
license as well, or got suspended.
That being said, I'm curious, right? Because so I come from the finance space
Okay.
as Jason does as well, and a lot around the finances, it's mathematical proof, right? It's black and white for the most part, right? So there's a lot of roles right now, especially in bookkeeping, AR, AP. Now we're seeing things in the cash flow P&L space that an agent can now go do because it's either right or wrong, it's precise or not
Yeah.
mathematically, and in the legal space, what's interesting is a lot of it's set on precedent, right? And documents
Case law,
and
yeah.
case law. So, could there be an argument made that, well, why couldn't an agent be a lawyer?
There can be certainly an argument to be made over there. I would say so. There are spaces within the legal space that can be automated, and there are certain other spaces where you will require a little more cerebral or fact checking and fact finding, a little more litigation and court cases, presenting your court case before a judge. There is a certain level of the due diligence that the lawyer has to conduct, as well as you know persuasive writing. Persuasive writing is also what a lot of it involved in a court case. That part, okay, you could argue that an AI may be able to, creatively write something really, out of the case law, but it's I don't know. We'll probably see in the next few years how legal tech tools come out in terms of writing these persuasive case laws and cases.
I think you're probably weeks and months the way that AI is moving. Things don't happen in years
Yeah.
anymore.
I agree. Well, I'm just
Right.
thinking, I'm
Fair
envisioning it
enough. Good
already,
point, yeah.
right? I'm envisioning it already where you have an avatar, you have a screen, you have all case law that's relevant loaded within the knowledge base. Why couldn't it be done today? What is the creativity? What's the creative missing strategic link that I'm not thinking about, so that all the lawyers that are watching aren't thinking like, holy smokes, I might need to change jobs. What do you think it is?
Actually, there are platforms that are already doing this. The larger platforms that are already investing in these are the Thomson Reuters, LexisNexis, and Bloomberg, and all of these. The legal side, they already are putting in enough
Wow.
resources.
But I think there's also a lot of education and soft skills that are built in as you went through law school that helps when you're doing going through trial. I can't imagine an avatar sitting there on trial and the judge is like, no, nah, it's not going to happen.
No to you, Judge. No, because I was big shout outs to Signal AI, and we were testing something out where they were using voice and avatar to invite me as the case subject to an event. And she asked me, well, how would you like that invite? And I said, I would like you to send it to me with a Hogwarts owl. And quickly goes, she starts laughing. It says, you joke too much. No, how would you really like your invite? And I'm like, this is where we are. The ability to express, I don't even know how you say themselves, right? It's a digital species. This agent to express itself, to understand that I made a joke, to laugh with me quickly, and then to say, no, hey, quit joking around.
Refocus you.
Right, to refocus me. So I'm thinking about a lot of these roles, and not just the legal space, right? And this is just what we're chatting about, but accounting space. All of it is, it's just something to think about. Something to think about when thinking of your own role or the role of others within your organization. What can this technology really do, and are we prepared for it?
Yeah.
So,
And like you mentioned, a point, and that's a point that's been discussed, by the way, in these podcasts among legal professionals who are both on both sides of the table, on the side of the practitioners table, as well as on the side where people or lawyers are actually working with company in-house companies that are actually developing legal ed tech tools. The fact that you have this whole 3 year of law school program that lawyers or students go through. They come out of law school, they have gestation period of 2, 3, 4, or 5 years before they become really well versed with the craft. What will happen to that learning if AI just comes and simply replaces that? So that's just something that's a problem that hasn't been solved, or people are probably still struggling with how
Well,
to
I'm,
get
I'm even
solve that
thinking,
problem.
okay, so say it does take over that, then what?
Right. No, it may take over what? It may take over the repository of experiences
Right.
of multiple
Yeah,
lawyers.
that's always been the hardest thing for me to articulate right now is how do you become an expert now that AI is your assistant? Because you don't have to go through a lot of the bars that you had to go through and all the steps as an associate and working your way up the chain.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, that is a key issue to be thought about
It
as
is a
we
great
push the
issue.
borders.
Yes,
Or
absolutely.
does that bar and that expectation of how long it takes those steps, does that come down? So once you graduate and go through law school, now because you have this assistant there, you may not need the amount of time to soak into the job to become an expert.
Right.
That's
Well,
right.
you were part of the founding docs of White Glove AI, and so we wanted to gift you Nick's founding book. No, I'm kidding. The Handbook for Chief AI Officers Leading the AI Revolution in
Thank you.
Business. And we wanted to just thank you for your time. And
Thank you very much.
where can people find you and your organization?
Absolutely. I'm with White Summers. White
White
Summers,
Summers.
Kathy and James. We're a California and Oregon-based law firm. I'm based in Texas. We also have an office in Budapest in Hungary.
Wow.
Because
So you're
Europe has,
international.
yeah, we're international, and Europe specifically has several pockets of startup ecosystems as well, and so there's a
Sure.
lot of activity happening in Europe as well. So we see a lot of cross-border work, Europe, US, India, US, Singapore, Asia, US in general as well.
Sure.
So yeah, that's where
That's
we're
excellent.
based. So
Well, great
happy
meeting
to
you. Thank you
thank
so
you,
much for your time.
thank you very much.
So thought provoking, and it's going to give us more to talk about. So,
For sure. Have a great one. Thanks a lot.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the event.
Thank you.
Looks like everyone's eating. I saw cookies out there. I saw sandwiches.
That was
Where are those
great,
utensils?
that was a great conversation, and it
was.
made me reflect back on something I was saying back when we were adopting cloud. Is when back in the 50s when you were flying airplanes, it took 6 pilots to do that. Once they created autopilot, that didn't just stop. That allowed more pilots and more flights and drove down the cost. So I think AI is going to be very similar. It's going to disrupt what you do now, but it's going to give you other opportunities to really expand and go deeper on things. So I think
I'm just curious about that lag time, right? Because we're saying it's going to be net positive for sure. It's for sure going to be net positive on the labor force side. It's just how long does that dip, right? Because we're seeing some of the dip, right? Workforce. Who are some other ones that recently happened? Meta. Although Meta, well, they write it as they're underperformers, but it was just a reinvestment in different.
I mean
roles.
the federal government.
Federal.
There's been a lot of cuts.
They're being doged.
Yes, they are.
They're being doged. Oh my goodness. Well, we have